In this video, we will be learning about the concept of amortization and the application thereof. When we buy a car or a house, we usually need to take out a loan. A loan works in a way that the borrower, you, repay the bank or the institution a specific amount of money every month or year, which is similar to an annuity. However, when you add all your repayments over the time period, you will see that you will pay much more in the total period compared to if you had purchased the item in cash. So why then the extra money? This is the interest paid to the institution. So you are basically paying them to get the loan. This means that your monthly repayment will consist out of a capital portion, which is your original loan amount, plus then the interest. Amortization tables can be presented in months, quarters, semi-annually, or annually. Your amortization table shows you then the split between the interest and the capital of your recurring repayment. Your repayment will be calculated using an annuity calculation through identifying the PMT. A practical example is when you get a home loan for your house, for a car, or if you take out a loan from the bank. Let's look at an example of an amortization schedule. Let's read the question. This is from the textbook. Suppose you borrow 22,000 Rand from ASL Bank at an interest rate of 12% per annum to be repaid over the next 6 years. Construct the amortization schedule if equal payments are required at the end of the year. Please let's note that the repayments, the PMT, is annually. Now, there is your amortization schedule. Let's look at each of these headings. P1 and P2 refers to the payment periods. This varies depending on the specifics of each question, but we'll cover that later. In this case, P1 will start at 1, P2 will be 1, and that will give us the total payment of the first year. So we have P1, P2, and then end of year, 0, 1, 2, 3. The next heading is my installment payment. Now, this is my PMT that we have calculated or will calculate, and as you see, that remains the same over the 6 years. The next one is now my principal payment and my annual interest. So your installment, your PMT, shows the split between what is going towards your interest and what is going towards the capital repayment of the amount that was borrowed, your 22,000 Rand. So we can see when we do a quick calculation, our 2,710.97 plus 2,640 equals to 5,350.97. So my principal amount owing at the end, this last one, is the original capital amount borrowed minus the principal payment. So we start by owing 22,000 Rand. And then if we take 22,000 Rand minus 2,710 Rand, that gives me my 19,289. Now we can do this manually by adding and subtracting every time, but your financial calculator enable you to see these amounts, your principal payment and your interest and your principal amount owing at the end for any year. So for example, if we want to know these amounts for year 5, we can type in P1 equals 5, P2 equals 5, and then we will see all of this. I will take you through a calculation with your financial calculator now. And then if we look at our cumulative interest, my cumulative interest is my annual interest added up every year. So my 2,640 is there plus 2,314, and we get 4,954. When we look at the totals of my columns, the total PMT payment that has been made over the 6 years amounts to 32,105 Rand, which is a split between my capital being repaid, 22,000 Rand, plus my annual interest. Let's look at our example using our financial calculators. So as I mentioned, this example is from the textbook. Example 4.13. So whenever you start your amortization schedule, you need to compute your PMT first. So first I'm going to show you using the Sharp calculator, but you can use any financial calculator. I will briefly show the input of the HP calculator after the Sharp, but please remember that there are separate files available on Moodle showing you how to use the HP calculator. It takes you through it step by step with a separate example. As well, there are some YouTube videos available, and of course, when you look at your user manual, the functionalities are there as well. So first of all, please let's take out our calculators and then calculate our PMT. Did everyone get 5,350? So we will say N equals to 6, interest equals to 12, present value equals to 22,000 Rand, and then our future value is 0 because the loan needs to be paid off at the end of the term. And if we press compute PMT, we get our 5,350.97 Please do not clear your memory because we need to have this PMT in our memory of the calculator to continue with our amortization function. So now that we have calculated our PMT, please pause the video if you haven't done so yet and calculate your PMT. Now I will show you the calculator functions to get your to complete your amortization schedule. So the buttons that we are going to look for is Amort AMRT, which you can find under the N button. And then we are also going to use the Enter button, ENT, which is just above your delete button. And then we are going to use the downward arrows, and you might even use the upwards arrow. So there's our buttons. Let's get ready. Once you have calculated your PMT, you are going to press AMRT. Now you're going to see on your financial calculator, it is going to pop up here, P1. This is to tell the calculator where you want to start calculating. So you're going to press 1 because you want to calculate for the first year, and you press Enter. You press the downward arrow, and then you see on your screen there will be a P2. So that is then where the calculator needs to stop its calculations. So you're going to say 1 and you're going to press enter because we only want it for the first year. When we press our downward arrow, you're going to see the word balance. So the balance is your capital amount outstanding, still to be repaid, all of your capital amount. So what needs to be paid from my 22,000 Rand. If you press the downwards arrow, you are going to see principal. So that is then the amount of your 5,000 Rand that has gone to the principal capital being repaid during the selected P1 and P2 periods. And then you're going to press your downward arrow again, and there you will see interest. So that is the amount of interest of my 5,000 Rand that was paid during my selected P1 and P2 periods. So let's move over to our HP calculator, and there is a picture of my HP calculator. And then the buttons that we are going to look at is there's one. Okay, we need to identify our input button. That is also the button right below N. Do you see input? We need to identify my shift button. My shift button is my orange button. And then let's see our amort button, AMORT, which is when you press shift future value. Do you see? There it is. So there's my button. So what is the functionality, the order? First, we are going to calculate your PMT. Once your PMT is shown and stored in the memory, you're going to press 1, that is your P1, and you're going to press input, and then you're going to press 1 again. This 12 is if we have 12 months, but let's say we're going to press 1 and we're going to press 1 again, and then you will see 1, 1. So apologies, there's a slight error in the slide. For this one, we want to just say 1, 1. So I'm just going to take out this 2, and there we go. So for the purpose of our example, we are going to press 1, input, then 1. Then you're going to press your shift, and you're going to press amort. So after you've pressed shift and amort, you're going to see the calculator showing you 1-1. So that shows me my P1 is 1 and my P2 is 1. And then when you press the equals button, there we go, the equal, you're going to see PRIN pop up on the screen, so with an amount. And that is the capital that has been repaid from your 5,000 Rand. So that is the capital portion of the 5,000 Rand. When you press your equals button again, you are going to see INT, and that is then showing you the interest portion of your 500 Rand of your annual repayment. And then when you press your equals button again, you are going to see BAL, which is then the balance outstanding from your original 22,000 Rand, how much still needs to be paid out. Right, so I need you to now take out your financial calculators and complete this amortization table using your financial calculator. Please pause the video now. Okay, so there are two different ways that we can ask amortization. The first one is a full amortization schedule like this one. So let's go through with it. We have already calculated your PMT. If you have cleared your memory in the meantime, please calculate the PMT again. The question is on the screen, and then you are going to press enter, 1 enter for P1 and then 1 for P2. So they're asking us construct your amortization schedule if equal payments are required at the end of each year. And the end of each year there were 6 years. So my P1 will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, let's rather talk about P1 and P2. In totality for the first year, P1 will be 1, P2 will be 1. For my second year, P1 will be 2 and P2 will be 2. So that's showing my financial calculator. It must calculate only for the second payment, the second installment. And then we're going for the third installment. So P1 and 2 will be 3, 3. We will go for the fourth installment, which will be 4, 4, and your fifth installment, which will be 5, 5, and lastly, your sixth installment, which will be 6, 6. So another way that we can do, and we're going to play around with your calculators, you have to do that as well, is we can calculate how much is my principal amount owing for the first 3 years or first 3 payment periods. So then, listen closely, will be P1 will be 1. We need to start calculating from there. And P2 will be 3. When you do that, you will see that your principal payment will be 2,700 plus 3,000 plus 3,400, the total of these three added together. Your annual interest will then show the amount of your cumulative interest, which is 6,905, and your principal amount owing will then be 12,000 rand. So that is just, for example, if the question asks us for the first 3 years, you're going to then start here. Let me just get a different pen. You are basically asking your calculator to start here and everything all the way through to the end of the third installment. So then you will have all three of these added together as for your principal payment, and your cumulative interest amount will be cumulatively all these three added together, which is 6,905, and your balance will be 12,852. Okay, so please pause the video, complete your amortization schedule. And then at the end, do you guys see if we have added all 6 of my installment periods, I get 32,105 rand and 82 cents. And that amount is then split between my 22,000, which is all of my principal payments, that is my capital being repaid, plus my 10,105 rand and 79 cents, which is my interest portion. Okay, so that is the first way that we can ask amortization, is to ask you to calculate or present your amortization schedule. And then here's a different way of asking amortization, and that is just asking you separate questions. So let's look at this example. Lindiwe has received a loan of 700,000 rand from SWC Bank in order to buy a townhouse in the northern suburbs. The term of the loan is 20 years. The rate is 14%, and then the nominal interest is compounded monthly. So we have 4 questions here. First one is to calculate a monthly installment. Secondly, we need to calculate the interest component and the capital component of installment number 13. And then we need to calculate the cumulative interest, cumulative meaning added up, and cumulative capital components of the payments in the second year, which in totality will be installment number 13 all the way through to installment number 24. And then lastly, the question was to present the amortization table for the first 5 months of the loan. So where do we start? We always start with calculating my PMT. So let's do that. Remember, N is 20 years. So, and we are using our compounding periods of monthly. So we need to take 20 times 12. And that is 240, and my interest, we will divide it by 12, and that is then 14%, or 14 divided by 12. My present value is 700,000, future value will be 0, and then my PMT will be 8,704 rand and 65 cents. Okay, please do not clear your memory and then continue for the amortization. So when we need to look for specifically installment number 13, we will have P1 equals 13. My calculator needs to start calculating at 13. And P2 will also be 13. And then you press the downwards arrow until you get to the answer that you want. So the question was, what is the interest and what is the capital amount? And you write it down. Very important is to show me in your answer P1 equals 13 and P2 equals to 13. There we go. So then the third question was then to calculate the cumulative interest for the capital components and the interest components for the entire second year. So that then will be installment number 13 all the way through to installment number 24. Remember, we are going to name and label our installments, and the first installment, because it is monthly, was January. Second installment, February. Third installment, March. You catch my drift. All the way through to your 12th installment, which is December. So your 12th installment is December, the end of your first year. So installment number 13 will then be the beginning of the second year. And you're going to go for your 12 installments all the way through to December. So then it will end at 24. So this means that when we do our amort, my P1 will be 13 and my P2 will be 24. Now we have the cumulative balance, which is outstanding at the end of my second year. It's 685,000 Rand. And then our cumulative principal paid, all of my capital that I have repaid during my second year of those 12 installments added up to 7,915. And then my cumulative interest paid, all of the interest paid for year number 2 over the 12 months amounted to 96,540 Rand. Please remember to write down to 2 decimals. Okay, so that was then the P1, P2, and then the fourth question was to show your monthly amortization schedule. So you will see here we have month now as our heading. So it is month 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and my P will be P11, P22, P33, 44, and 55. So when we look for the first 5 repayments, the first 5 months, your capital plus your cumulative interest will be this one. And then in this case, our heading only showed cumulative interest, not interest. So it will be this one plus all of the interest every single year. Right. So that is, in a nutshell, the amortization schedules. I want you to please go and have a look maybe on some of the property websites and then look for a house that you think you would like to buy. And then go to the bond calculator, and there it will tell you how much you will repay in total with no deposit. And then you can maybe add deposits and then see how your installment changes with your deposits. Also, when you shorten the time periods, you will probably pay more installments compared to a longer time period. Then our online class will continue with Unit 5 and we will do more examples of this. Thank you very much for listening, and yep, all the best. Bye bye.